Get ready to dive into a remarkable story, a journey that begins in the gritty streets of Brooklyn and ends in the towering heights of unimaginable wealth. This is the tale of a man who, against all odds, turned his humble beginnings into a billion-dollar empire. But this isn't just about money. It's about the power of determination, the grit to push through adversity, and the mindset that turns dreams into reality. In this audiobook, you'll uncover the hidden chapters of a financial giant's life. We'll explore the moments that tested him, the setbacks that nearly broke him, and the crucial decisions that set him on the path to greatness. This is a story that will not only inspire you, but will also reveal the strategies and principles that you can apply to your own life. As you listen, you'll walk alongside this mysterious figure, feeling his struggles, his triumphs, and the relentless drive that kept him moving forward. Who is this extraordinary individual? Can you guess? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's start this journey together. Now, let's dive into the first chapter of this incredible story. Chapter 1. Growing up in Brooklyn. Imagine a young boy growing up in Brooklyn, where the noise of the subway is as constant as the daily struggles of life. This boy was born in 1953, the oldest of 3 children in a family that knew nothing of wealth or luxury. His early years were marked by a harsh reality. His family didn't have much, and every day was a fight to get by. For the first few years of his life, he and his family lived with his grandmother. It wasn't an easy life, but they made do with what they had. Soon, they moved to the Bayview Houses, a public housing project in Brooklyn's Canarsie neighborhood. It was 1956, and the Bayview Houses were home to about 150 families, all crammed into small, basic apartments. The building had a single elevator, always struggling to serve the needs of so many people. The family's apartment was on the 7th floor, a cramped 2-bedroom space where privacy and comfort were rare luxuries. Despite these tough conditions, this young boy found a way to make the best of his situation. He grew up surrounded by a diverse mix of people, each with their own stories of hardship and survival. He learned early on how to get along with different kinds of people, finding friends and playmates among the other children in the project. But even as he played, he couldn't escape the constant stress that hung over his family. "I didn't have a bad childhood," he would later say, "but there was always the worry about money. We didn't have much, and sometimes I felt ashamed of that. By the time I was in high school, I knew I had to get out of that life. I didn't want to struggle the way my parents did." His father was a World War II veteran who hadn't finished high school. To support his family, he worked a series of hard, low-paying jobs, driving a cab, working in a factory, and doing whatever else he could find. Often he held down 2 or 3 jobs at once just to put food on the table. It was exhausting work, and the toll it took on him was clear. "My father was a beaten man," the boy would later say. "He worked so hard, but we were still poor. He was what people now call the working poor." His mother, on the other hand, was a strong-willed woman who never gave up hope that her children could have a better life. Even though she and her husband hadn't achieved the American dream, she believed her children deserved a shot at it. Her biggest dream was to see all 3 of her kids go to college, a goal she worked tirelessly to make possible. From a young age, this boy understood the value of hard work. He was a talented athlete and spent many hours playing with the other kids in the neighborhood, but he also knew that if he wanted something, he had to work for it. By the time he was 12, he was already earning his own money, starting with a paper route. He didn't stop there. Soon, he was working behind the counter at the local diner, serving up food to the customers. At 16, he took a job in Manhattan's garment district, working for a furrier. His job was to stretch animal skins, grueling work that paid just 5 cents per skin. One summer, he worked in a hot, stifling knitting factory, steaming yarn for hours on end. It was tough work, and he saw firsthand how hard life could be for his parents. But instead of feeling sorry for himself, he used what little money he made to help his family, sending a portion of his earnings to his mother. He didn't do it because he had to. He did it because he understood the struggle and wanted to help. In these early years, we see the seeds of the determination and resilience that would later define his life. This was a boy who knew what it meant to face adversity, but instead of letting it crush him, he used it as fuel to drive himself forward. He saw the tough times his family went through, and he made a promise to himself that he would find a way out. As he moved through high school, his understanding of the world around him deepened. He became more aware of the stigma attached to living in public housing, and he knew that if he wanted to change his life, he would have to work harder than anyone else. He wasn't just driven by a desire for money. He wanted to prove to himself and to everyone else that he could rise above his circumstances. This chapter of his life is just the beginning of a much larger story. It's a story about overcoming obstacles, about seeing opportunity where others only see hardship, and about the relentless pursuit of a better life. From the cramped apartments of Brooklyn, this young boy would go on to become a force to be reckoned with in the world of business. But before he could achieve greatness, he had to face and conquer the challenges of his youth. This is the story of how it all began, a testament to the power of determination, hard work, and the belief that no matter where you start in life, you have the potential to go far. As we continue, you'll see how these early experiences shaped his path and prepared him for the incredible journey ahead. The road from these humble beginnings to becoming a billionaire is filled with lessons in grit, ambition, and transformation. Chapter 2. A Turning Point in High School. As our protagonist moved into his teenage years, he faced the challenges of high school with the same determination that had driven him throughout his childhood. Attending a massive high school with nearly 6,000 students, he knew that standing out would be no easy task. But he was never one to shy away from a challenge. In fact, he embraced it. One of the most significant turning points in his life came when he secured the role of quarterback on the school's football team. This achievement was more than just a personal victory. It was a testament to his hard work and his ability to rise above the competition. In a school as large as his, becoming the quarterback was no small feat. It required not only athletic talent, but also leadership, focus, and the ability to handle pressure, qualities that would serve him well in the years to come. This success on the football field caught the attention of a recruiter from a well-regarded university. The recruiter saw something special in him, something beyond his athletic ability. The offer of a scholarship to play football at this university was like a golden ticket, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that could change his life forever. For a young man from the projects, this was a dream come true. It was a chance to escape the life he had known and to step into a future full of possibilities. He understood the importance of this opportunity. It wasn't just about playing football. It was about securing a future for himself that was different from the one his parents had known. He was determined to make the most of it, knowing that this could be his way out of the cycle of poverty that had trapped his family for so long. However, the reality of attending college was more complicated than just receiving a scholarship. Even with the scholarship, he still had to cover the additional costs of tuition, books, and living expenses. This meant he would need to take out loans and work part-time during the school year, as well as full-time during the summer, to make ends meet. But he was no stranger to hard work. He had been working since he was 12, and he was prepared to do whatever it took to achieve his goals. He chose to major in communications, a field that intrigued him and seemed to align with his natural talents. He was fascinated by the power of communication, the way words could inspire, influence, and create change. This major would not only equip him with valuable skills for the future, but also open doors to a wide range of career opportunities. Graduating from college was a monumental achievement, not just for him, but for his entire family. He became the first person in his family to earn a college degree, fulfilling his mother's dream, and proving that hard work and perseverance could indeed change the course of a person's life. Returning to New York after graduation, he was ready to take on the world. He joined the sales division of a major corporation, where he quickly began to make a name for himself. The skills he had developed in college, along with his natural drive and determination, helped him excel in his new role. Over the next 3 years, he honed his abilities in sales, marketing, and presentation. These years were crucial in shaping his understanding of the business world and laying the foundation for his future success. But as he approached the end of his 3rd year with the company, something inside him began to stir. Despite his achievements, he felt restless. The corporate world, with its rigid structure and limited opportunities for creative thinking, felt confining. He wanted more freedom, more challenge, more opportunity to make a real impact. Just as he was beginning to question his path, an intriguing opportunity came his way. He learned that a Swedish company was planning to establish a US division for its houseware subsidiary. The idea of being part of something new, something with untapped potential, excited him. This was exactly the kind of challenge he was looking for. He took a leap of faith, leaving the security of his corporate job to join this new venture. The company sent him to Sweden for 3 months of intensive training, where he quickly rose through the ranks to become vice president and general manager of the US operations. It was a rapid ascent, and it was clear that his decision to leave the corporate world had been the right one. Then, in 1981, a pivotal moment occurred that would set him on a new trajectory. He discovered that a company based in Seattle was placing substantial orders for drip coffee makers from his employer. Curious, he decided to visit this company, which had a small but growing reputation for selling high-quality coffee beans and related products. What he found in Seattle was a revelation. The company, though modest in size, was brimming with potential. Its business model, its products, and even the city itself captivated him. He could see that there was something special happening there, something that aligned perfectly with his own ambitions and vision for the future. In 1983, he made a bold decision. He left his position with the Swedish company to join this small Seattle-based coffee company, taking on the role of head of retail sales and marketing. It was a risky move, but he felt a deep conviction that this was where he was meant to be. His new position was challenging, but it also offered him the freedom to innovate and explore new ideas. One of those ideas came to him during a buying trip to Italy, where he encountered a coffee culture that was unlike anything he had ever seen before. In Italy, coffee wasn't just a drink. It was an experience, a ritual that brought people together. Inspired by what he saw, he began to envision a new future for the company, one that went beyond simply selling coffee beans. He imagined transforming their stores into vibrant coffee and espresso bars, places where people could come not just for a cup of coffee, but for a shared experience, a moment of connection in an increasingly disconnected world. In 1984, he managed to convince the company's founders to test his idea by opening a new store in downtown Seattle that embraced the coffee bar concept. The results were immediate and overwhelming. The store was a success, and customers loved the new approach. Yet, despite this success, the founders were hesitant to expand the concept further. They were cautious, unwilling to take the risks that he was so eager to embrace. Faced with this resistance, he realized that if he wanted to see his vision come to life, he would have to strike out on his own. By 1986, he made the toughest decision of his life. He left the company to pursue his dream of creating something entirely new, something that could revolutionize the way people experienced coffee. This chapter of his life marks a crucial turning point. It was a time of growth, learning, and significant risk-taking. But more importantly, it was the beginning of a journey that would eventually lead to the creation of a global phenomenon. The young man who had once struggled to stand out in a high school of 6,000 students was now on the brink of changing the coffee industry forever. As we move forward, we'll see how his relentless drive and willingness to embrace change propelled him to even greater heights. Chapter 3. An Italian Revelation. In 1983, at the age of 30, our protagonist found himself in Italy on a business trip that would change the course of his life forever. He had been working as the head of retail sales and marketing for a small, yet promising coffee company based in Seattle. It was a role that had allowed him to innovate and explore new ideas, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to experience in Italy. It was early morning in Milan when he first wandered into an espresso bar, lured in by the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee that filled the air. The scene inside the bar was unlike anything he had ever witnessed. The barista, an older man with practiced precision, moved gracefully behind the counter, grinding coffee beans, packing them into a short-handled basket, and inserting them into a gleaming chrome machine. As he pulled the lever, streams of deep amber liquid flowed into tiny porcelain cups, creating a dense foam on top, the crema, that was the hallmark of a perfectly brewed espresso. The barista's movements were almost like a dance, each step deliberate and skilled. Meanwhile, the customers who stood side by side at the bar chatted in quick bursts of Italian, enjoying not just the coffee, but the entire experience. Our protagonist was captivated. This wasn't just about drinking coffee, it was about enjoying a moment of connection, a ritual that brought people together. The espresso bar was more than just a place to get a caffeine fix. It was a social hub, deeply ingrained in the fabric of daily life in Italy. He ordered his first authentic Italian espresso, and as he sipped the strong, flavorful brew, he felt something shift inside him. This wasn't like the coffee he knew from back home, which was often served in large, reheated pots, poured into oversized mugs, and gulped down in a rush. This was different. It was rich, smooth, and full of flavor, meant to be savored, not hurried. The experience was both intimate and communal, as the small space of the bar encouraged conversation and interaction. This moment sparked an idea in his mind, one that began to grow as he continued his travels through Italy. He spent the rest of the week exploring Milan's coffee culture, visiting as many espresso bars as he could find. Some were small, minimalist spaces, where men stood at narrow counters, bantering and discussing the events of the day. Others were larger, more elegant establishments, where people from all walks of life, students, retirees, families, gathered to enjoy their coffee in a relaxed, welcoming atmosphere. The energy in these places was palpable, even when they were quiet. Opera music often played in the background, adding a touch of sophistication to the experience. The baristas, many of whom spoke English, were more than just servers. They were craftsmen, mastering the art of coffee making. They knew their regulars by name, remembered their orders, and made each cup of coffee with the same care and precision. He realized that in Italy, coffee was not just a beverage, it was an art form, a way of life. Italians had elevated coffee to something more, something that connected people and created a sense of community. It was a stark contrast to the American coffee culture he knew, where coffee was often treated as a quick fix, something to gulp down on the way to work. As he sat in one of these bustling espresso bars, he had an epiphany. What if he could bring this experience back to America? What if he could transform the coffee shops in Seattle into something similar? places where people could not only enjoy high-quality coffee, but also connect with each other and appreciate the artistry involved in making each cup. He imagined creating a new kind of coffee shop, one that would offer more than just a product. It would offer an experience. The idea consumed him. On the flight back to Seattle, his mind buzzed with possibilities. He jotted down notes, sketched out ideas, and imagined how he could recreate the Italian coffee culture in America. He knew that the company he worked for, with its reputation for exceptional coffee, was perfectly positioned to introduce this concept to the United States. But he also knew it wouldn't be easy. The American market was different, and people were used to their coffee being served in a very specific way, quickly, cheaply, and in large quantities. But he was undeterred. He believed in the power of the experience he had in Italy, and he was convinced that Americans would respond to it with the same curiosity and delight that he had felt. He could see the potential for growth, the opportunity to create something new and exciting that could revolutionize the way people experienced coffee. When he returned to Seattle, he was eager to share his vision with the company's founders. He explained what he had seen in Italy, how the espresso bars there were not just places to drink coffee, but places where people came together, where relationships were built, and where the process of making coffee was celebrated as an art. He proposed that they should transform their stores in Seattle into similar espresso bars, where customers could enjoy high-quality coffee in a warm, inviting atmosphere. The founders were intrigued, but cautious. They were focused on selling whole bean coffee, which had been the cornerstone of their business since its inception. The idea of turning their stores into coffee bars seemed risky, and they weren't sure if it was worth the investment. But our protagonist was persistent. He believed so strongly in his vision that he convinced them to at least try it out. In 1984, they opened a new store in downtown Seattle that embraced the espresso bar concept. The store was designed to be warm and welcoming, with a focus on creating an experience rather than just selling coffee. Customers could watch the baristas as they made each cup, see the care that went into every step of the process, and enjoy their coffee in a comfortable, communal space. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Customers loved the new store, and many of them became regulars, returning day after day to enjoy their morning coffee in a place that felt like home. The success of the store proved that the concept worked, that people were hungry for more than just a quick cup of coffee. They wanted a place where they could slow down, connect with others, and enjoy a moment of peace in their busy lives. Despite the success of the downtown store, the founders were still hesitant to expand the concept further. They appreciated the idea, but were reluctant to take the risk of changing their entire business model. It was a frustrating moment for our protagonist. He could see the potential for something great, but he couldn't do it alone. He needed the support of the company's leadership, and without it, he knew that his vision would never be fully realized. It was a difficult decision, but in 1986, he made the choice to leave the company and pursue his dream on his own. He knew it was a gamble, but he also knew that if he didn't take the risk, he would always wonder what could have been. He was determined to bring the Italian coffee experience to America, and he was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. This chapter of his life marks the beginning of a new journey, one that would eventually lead to the creation of a coffee empire that would change the way people around the world experienced coffee. The young man who had once walked the streets of Brooklyn with big dreams was now on the verge of creating something truly revolutionary. But as he set out on his own, he knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, and it would take every ounce of determination, creativity, and resilience. He had to turn his vision into reality. Chapter 4. Building a Dream, Facing Rejection. Leaving behind the safety net of a steady job and stepping into the unknown was not a decision our protagonist took lightly, but deep down he knew it was the right move. He had seen the potential of the coffee bar concept in Italy, and he was convinced that it could transform the American coffee experience. With this vision burning brightly in his mind, he set out to build something entirely new, a coffee house that would be more than just a place to grab a quick drink. It would be a place where people could come together, relax, and enjoy the artistry of coffee making. But dreams don't come to life without challenges. The path to success was anything but smooth, and the first obstacle he encountered was money. Starting a new business requires capital, and he knew he needed a significant amount to turn his vision into reality. His first step was to reach out to potential investors, people who believed in his idea and were willing to put their money behind it. One evening, he found himself seated at the dining room table of Carol and Ron, two potential investors who had shown interest in his concept. He had come prepared, with architectural drawings and a detailed business plan that outlined exactly how every dollar would be spent to build 100 stores. But before he could dive into the paperwork, he decided to share the story that had inspired him, the story of his trip to Italy, the mesmerizing espresso bars, and his belief that this experience belonged in American culture. As he spoke, his passion for the project was clear. He wasn't just talking about coffee, he was talking about creating a new way for people to connect, to enjoy life, and to experience something special every day. His enthusiasm was contagious, and by the time he began to unfold his papers, Ron stopped him. "Listen," Ron said, "our expertise is reading people. How much do you need?" That night, Carol and Ron wrote him a check for $100,000. It was a huge vote of confidence, not just in his concept, but in him as a person. They believed in his vision and his ability to bring it to life. Leaving their home that night, he felt a mix of elation and responsibility. He knew that he now carried the weight of his friends' trust and money on his shoulders, and failure was not an option. However, securing the remaining $1.4 million he needed proved to be far more difficult than he had anticipated. At the time, he had little experience in raising funds from venture capital firms, which were not as common or accessible as they are today. Bank loans were out of the question for him. Memories of his parents' struggles with debt, the heated arguments, the humiliation of dealing with debt collectors, had left him with a deep-seated aversion to borrowing money. Instead of seeking loans, he decided to approach individual investors, offering them equity in his company in exchange for their financial support. This meant that he would have to give up a portion of ownership in the business, but he preferred this to the burden of debt. It was a sacrifice he was willing to make, knowing that it would keep him free from the financial chains that had weighed down his family. In the months that followed, he faced a seemingly endless stream of rejections. More than 100 potential investors turned him down. Some ignored his calls, others hung up on him, and many met his proposals with skepticism and doubt. They couldn't see what he saw. They didn't believe that Americans would embrace the espresso bar concept, and they certainly didn't think it was worth the risk. Some of the rejections were brutal. Investors would lecture him on why his idea was foolish, explaining in condescending tones that Americans weren't interested in sipping small cups of espresso. They wanted their coffee fast, cheap, and in large quantities. Even some of Seattle's most prominent business figures laughed at his concept, telling him it would never work. These constant rejections took a toll on him. There were days when the weight of it all felt unbearable. Often, before meeting a potential investor, he would walk around the block several times to calm his nerves, rehearsing what he would say, trying to summon the enthusiasm and confidence that had fueled him in the beginning. Many nights, he came home to his wife feeling dejected, the stress of the situation pressing down on him. His wife, who was pregnant at the time, tried to be supportive, but he knew that the uncertainty of their future weighed heavily on both of them. He didn't want to burden her with his stress, so he kept much of it to himself, putting on a brave face and telling her that everything would be okay. But each morning, as he straightened his tie and prepared to head out again, he felt the fear creeping in. "Today will be a good day," he would tell himself, trying to convince himself as much as anyone else. He met potential investors for breakfast, lunch, and sometimes even dinner, often sitting at the far end of long conference tables in high-rise offices with sweeping views of the city. Each meeting felt like a battle, an uphill struggle to convince someone, anyone, to believe in his dream. But with each rejection, he grew more determined. He knew he was onto something special, and he refused to let the doubt of others derail him. Persistence became his greatest weapon. Every no he heard only fueled his resolve to keep going, to find the one person who would say yes. He believed that his vision wasn't just about making money. It was about creating something meaningful, something that would bring joy to people's lives. And that belief kept him going, even when the odds seemed stacked against him. Finally, after months of relentless effort, he began to see the tide turn. A few investors started to come on board, each one bringing him closer to his goal. With their support, he was able to secure the funding he needed to move forward with his plan. It had been a long and difficult journey, but he had made it through. Looking back, he realized that the rejections and challenges he faced during this time were crucial to his success. They had forced him to refine his pitch, to strengthen his resolve, and to dig deeper into his own belief in his vision. Every no had brought him closer to the yes that would ultimately make his dream a reality. This chapter of his life was not just about raising money. It was about perseverance in the face of doubt and rejection. It was about staying true to his vision, even when others couldn't see it. And it was about learning that the road to success is often paved with obstacles, but those obstacles are what make the journey and the destination worthwhile. As he moved forward, armed with the funds and the belief of a few key investors, he knew that the real work was just beginning. He was about to take the first steps toward building something that would change the way people experienced coffee, not just in Seattle, but eventually all around the world. The young man who had started out with little more than a dream was now on the brink of creating a revolution, one cup of coffee at a time. Chapter 5. The First Coffee House and the Vision Takes Shape. With the necessary funding finally secured, our protagonist was ready to bring his vision to life. But this wasn't just about opening a coffee shop. It was about creating an entirely new experience, one that would transform the way people thought about coffee. He had the passion, he had the support, and now he had the money. All that was left was to make it happen. The first step was finding the perfect location. He knew that this initial coffee house had to set the tone for everything that would come after. It needed to be in a spot where people could easily drop in, relax, and enjoy a break from their busy lives. After scouting various locations, he finally found a small space in downtown Seattle that seemed perfect. It was on a busy street, close to offices and shops, with plenty of foot traffic. This would be the place where his dream would start to take shape. The design of the coffee house was crucial. He didn't want it to be just another place where people came to grab a quick coffee and leave. He wanted it to be a destination, a place where people could linger, talk, and connect. The interior was designed to be warm and inviting, with comfortable seating, soft lighting, and a welcoming atmosphere that made you want to stay a while. The centerpiece of the space was, of course, the coffee bar. It was positioned so that customers could watch the baristas at work, turning the preparation of coffee into a performance. But it wasn't just about aesthetics. The coffee itself had to be exceptional. He had learned from his time in Italy that the quality of the coffee was paramount. It wasn't enough to offer a good product. It had to be the best. He worked closely with suppliers to ensure that the beans used in his coffee house were of the highest quality, sourced from the best regions around the world. He wanted every cup of coffee served in his shop to be an experience, rich, flavorful, and unforgettable. Training the staff was another critical component. The baristas weren't just employees, they were artisans, crafting each cup with care and precision. He invested heavily in their training, teaching them not just how to make coffee, but how to engage with customers, how to create an environment that felt personal and special. He wanted every customer to feel like they were part of something unique when they walked through the door. Finally, in 1986, the first coffee house opened its doors. The anticipation was high, both for him and for the small team he had assembled. On opening day, he stood behind the counter, watching as the first customers walked in, curious about this new place in their neighborhood. There was a nervous energy in the air, but also a sense of excitement. This was the moment he had been working toward, the culmination of years of dreaming, planning, and hard work. The response was everything he had hoped for, and more. Word of the new coffee house spread quickly, and soon it was buzzing with activity. People loved the atmosphere, the quality of the coffee, and the way they were treated when they came in. It wasn't just a place to get a cup of coffee, it was a place to relax, to catch up with friends, or even to get some work done. It was a space that people looked forward to visiting, a little oasis in the middle of a busy city. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the coffee house continued to thrive. It became clear that this wasn't just a fleeting success, it was the beginning of something much bigger. The vision he had brought back from Italy was becoming a reality, one cup at a time. But success brought its own set of challenges. As the coffee house became more popular, he began to think about expansion. The original location was doing well, but he knew that if this concept was going to truly take off, he needed to open more stores. However, expansion came with risks. Would the magic of the first coffee house translate to other locations? Could he maintain the quality and the atmosphere that had made the first store such a success? He decided to move forward cautiously, opening one new store at a time, each in carefully chosen locations. Each new store was designed to replicate the warmth and charm of the original, with the same attention to detail in both design and coffee quality. And with each new opening, the brand's reputation grew. Customers who had fallen in love with the first coffee house were thrilled to find that they could have the same experience in other parts of the city. The expansion was a success, but it wasn't without its challenges. As the company grew, so did the pressures of managing a larger operation. He had to learn quickly how to scale the business without losing the personal touch that had made it special in the first place. This meant hiring more staff, training them to the same high standards, and ensuring that every store maintained the same level of quality. One of the biggest challenges was finding the right people. The company was growing fast, and it needed people who were not only skilled, but also shared the same passion for coffee and customer service. He spent a lot of time personally interviewing candidates, looking for those who understood what the coffee house was all about, and who were excited to be part of something new and different. As the company continued to expand, he also started to think about how to innovate. He knew that in order to stay ahead, he couldn't just rely on what had worked in the past. He needed to keep pushing the boundaries, finding new ways to enhance the customer experience and keep people coming back. One of the ideas he came up with was to introduce seasonal drinks, specialty coffees that would only be available for a limited time. These drinks, often flavored with ingredients like pumpkin, peppermint, or caramel, were a hit with customers. They created a sense of anticipation and excitement, giving people another reason to visit the coffee house regularly. He also began to explore the idea of selling coffee-related products in the stores, everything from coffee beans to brewing equipment to branded merchandise. This not only provided an additional revenue stream, but also helped to build the brand's identity. Customers could take a piece of the coffeehouse experience home with them, whether it was a bag of freshly roasted beans or a stylish mug with the company's logo. As the brand grew, so did its influence. It wasn't long before the coffeehouse became a cultural phenomenon, a place that was as much about the experience as it was about the coffee. People weren't just coming in for a caffeine fix. They were coming for the atmosphere, the sense of community, and the feeling that they were part of something special. But with success came even greater challenges. The pressure to maintain the quality and consistency of the coffeehouses across multiple locations was immense. He knew that one bad experience at any of the stores could tarnish the brand's reputation, so he remained hands-on, constantly visiting stores, talking to employees, and listening to customer feedback. He also had to navigate the complexities of growing a business, from managing finances to dealing with competition. The coffee industry was starting to take notice of his success, and competitors were beginning to pop up, trying to mimic the coffeehouse experience. But he wasn't worried. He knew that what made his company special wasn't something that could easily be copied. It was the passion, the attention to detail, and the deep connection with customers that set it apart. Despite the challenges, he remained focused on his vision. He believed that the coffeehouse had the potential to become something much bigger, a global brand that could change the way people experienced coffee around the world. But he also knew that it would take time, patience, and a relentless commitment to quality to get there. As he looked back on the journey so far, he realized just how far he had come. From the tough streets of Brooklyn to the boardrooms of Seattle, from the cramped apartments of his childhood to the bustling coffeehouses that were now spreading across the city, his life had been transformed by a simple idea, that coffee could be more than just a drink. It could be an experience, a ritual, a way of bringing people together. The first coffeehouse had been a success, but he knew that the journey was far from over. There were still more challenges to face, more opportunities to seize, and more dreams to pursue. But he was ready for whatever came next. He had built something incredible from the ground up, and he was determined to see just how far it could go. As the company prepared to open its next store, he stood in front of his team and spoke from the heart. "We're just getting started," he said. "The best is yet to come." And with that, they moved forward, ready to take the next step in a journey that was just beginning to unfold. The future was wide open, full of possibilities, and he couldn't wait to see where it would lead. Chapter 6. Expanding the Vision and Overcoming Setbacks. As the coffeehouse chain continued to grow, so did the vision that fueled it. What had started as a single store in Seattle was now becoming a thriving business, with multiple locations and a loyal customer base. But our protagonist knew that this was only the beginning. His dream was much bigger than a few successful coffee shops. He envisioned a brand that could transcend borders, bringing the unique coffeehouse experience to people around the world. However, expansion brought its own set of challenges. The first was maintaining the quality and consistency that had made the original coffeehouse so beloved. As more stores opened, it became increasingly difficult to ensure that each one offered the same level of service, ambiance, and coffee quality. He was acutely aware that any slip in standards could damage the brand he had worked so hard to build. To address this, he implemented rigorous training programs for all employees, especially the baristas, who were at the heart of the coffeehouse experience. These programs weren't just about teaching them how to make coffee. They were about instilling a sense of pride in their work, a commitment to excellence, and a deep understanding of the company's values. He believed that by empowering his employees, he could maintain the high standards that customers had come to expect. He also spent a lot of time on the ground, visiting stores regularly, talking to staff, and listening to customer feedback. He knew that staying connected to the day-to-day operations was crucial, especially during this period of rapid growth. This hands-on approach allowed him to spot potential problems early and address them before they could escalate. Another challenge was navigating the financial complexities of expansion. Opening new stores required significant investment, and he had to carefully manage the company's resources to ensure that each new venture was sustainable. He also faced increasing competition as other entrepreneurs began to notice the success of his coffee houses and tried to replicate the concept. One of the most significant obstacles came in the form of a recession that hit the economy in the late 1980s. As people tightened their belts and cut back on discretionary spending, the coffeehouse chain felt the impact. Sales began to decline, and the pressure to keep the business afloat grew more intense. This was a difficult time for him, both professionally and personally. The stress of managing a growing company in the midst of an economic downturn took its toll, and there were moments when he questioned whether the dream he had worked so hard to build would survive. But giving up was never an option. He had faced adversity before, and he was determined to push through this challenge just as he had pushed through all the others. To weather the storm, he made some tough decisions. He scaled back on expansion plans, focusing instead on strengthening the existing stores and ensuring that they remained profitable. He also implemented cost-cutting measures, finding ways to reduce expenses without compromising the quality of the coffeehouse experience. At the same time, he began to explore new avenues for growth. One idea was to introduce a line of packaged coffee that customers could buy and brew at home. This would not only create an additional revenue stream, but also allow the brand to reach customers who might not be able to visit the coffee houses as often. The idea was well received, and the packaged coffee quickly became a popular product. He also looked into expanding the company's offerings beyond just coffee. By introducing a selection of pastries, sandwiches, and other light fare, he was able to attract a broader customer base and encourage people to spend more time in the stores. This move helped to boost sales and provided a more well-rounded experience for customers. As the economy began to recover, so did the company's fortunes. The steps he had taken during the downturn had positioned the business for renewed growth, and by the early 1990s, the coffeehouse chain was once again on an upward trajectory. But he knew that in order to take the brand to the next level, he needed to think even bigger. One of the key moments in the company's expansion came when he decided to explore the idea of international growth. He believed that the coffeehouse experience was something that could resonate with people around the world, not just in the United States. But entering new markets posed significant risks. Each country had its own culture, tastes, and business practices, and he knew that simply replicating the American model wouldn't work. To mitigate these risks, he took a methodical approach to international expansion. He and his team conducted extensive research to understand the markets they were entering, from the local coffee culture to consumer preferences. They also formed strategic partnerships with local businesses that could help them navigate the complexities of operating in a foreign country. The first international store opened in Tokyo, Japan, in 1996. It was a bold move, but it paid off. The store was an instant success, attracting a steady stream of customers who were eager to experience the unique coffeehouse atmosphere. This success validated his belief that the brand had global appeal, and it set the stage for further international expansion. Over the next few years, the company opened stores in cities across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Each new market presented its own challenges, but the core principles that had made the brand successful in the United States, quality, community, and a commitment to the customer experience, remained at the heart of the business. And as the company's global footprint expanded, so did its influence. But even as the brand grew into a global powerhouse, he remained focused on the values that had guided him from the beginning. He never lost sight of the importance of staying connected to his employees, his customers, and the communities the coffee houses served. He continued to visit stores regularly, both in the US and abroad, and made it a point to listen to feedback and make adjustments as needed. One of the key lessons he learned during this period of expansion was the importance of adaptability. While the core values of the brand remained the same, he recognized that each market was different, and success depended on being flexible and responsive to local needs. This meant making adjustments to the menu, the store design, and even the way coffee was served to ensure that the brand resonated with local customers. As the 1990s came to a close, the company was thriving. What had started as a single coffeehouse in Seattle had grown into a global brand, with thousands of stores in countries around the world. But despite this success, he knew that the journey was far from over. The coffee industry was constantly evolving, and he was determined to stay ahead of the curve. Looking back on the challenges he had faced, he realized that each setback had been a stepping stone to greater success. The early rejections from investors, the economic downturn, the risks of international expansion, all of these experiences had taught him valuable lessons and strengthened his resolve. He had built something incredible, but he was always looking forward, always thinking about what came next. As the new millennium approached, he began to explore new ways to innovate and expand the brand's reach. He knew that the future held both challenges and opportunities, and he was ready to face them head-on. The coffee house that had started as a dream was now a global phenomenon, but in his mind, it was still just the beginning. With each new store, each new product, and each new market, he continued to push the boundaries of what was possible, driven by the same passion and determination that had fueled him from the start. The world had embraced his vision, and now he was ready to take it even further. The story of the coffee house was far from over. In fact, the most exciting chapters were still to come. As he stood on the brink of a new era, he knew that the journey ahead would be just as challenging and rewarding as the one he had already traveled. And with that thought, he took a deep breath, ready to embark on the next phase of a journey that had already changed the world. Chapter 7. Revolutionizing the coffee experience. By the early 2000s, our protagonist had successfully transformed a single coffee house into a global brand, but he was far from satisfied. His vision for the company had always been about more than just selling coffee. It was about creating an experience that customers couldn't find anywhere else. As the world continued to change, he knew that the company needed to innovate constantly to stay relevant and continue its upward trajectory. One of the first major steps in this new phase of growth was embracing technology. The digital revolution was in full swing, and he recognized the potential it held for enhancing the customer experience and expanding the brand's reach. While many traditional businesses were hesitant to adapt to the rapidly changing landscape, he saw it as an opportunity to revolutionize how people interacted with the coffee house. The idea of a mobile app was one of the first initiatives that came to mind. It seemed simple at first, an app that would allow customers to order their coffee before they even arrived at the store. But as he and his team began to develop the concept, they realized that it could be so much more. The app could not only streamline the ordering process, but also offer loyalty rewards, track customer preferences, and provide personalized recommendations. When the mobile app launched, it was an immediate success. Customers loved the convenience of being able to order ahead, skip the line, and pick up their coffee without any hassle. The loyalty program, which rewarded users with points for every purchase, quickly became one of the most popular features. People loved the idea of earning rewards for their daily coffee runs, and it encouraged them to visit the coffee houses more frequently. The app also allowed the company to collect valuable data about customer preferences and habits. This information helped the team refine their offerings, tailor promotions to individual tastes, and even experiment with new products based on what customers were already enjoying. The success of the mobile app demonstrated the power of integrating technology into the customer experience and set the stage for further digital innovations. But technology was just one piece of the puzzle. He also knew that to keep the brand strong, the company needed to continually evolve its product offerings. This wasn't just about introducing new drinks. It was about staying ahead of trends and understanding what customers wanted before they even knew it themselves. One of the biggest successes in this area came from the introduction of seasonal drinks. These limited-time offerings, often inspired by popular flavors and holidays, quickly became a hit with customers. Drinks like the pumpkin spice latte, introduced in the fall, became so popular that they developed a cult following. The seasonal drinks not only drove sales, but also created excitement and buzz around the brand, drawing in both loyal customers and new ones eager to try the latest offerings. In addition to new drinks, he also explored expanding the food menu. While the coffee had always been the star of the show, he realized that offering a wider variety of food options could enhance the customer experience and encourage people to spend more time in the stores. The introduction of breakfast sandwiches, pastries, and other light meals helped to position the coffee houses as not just a place to grab a quick coffee, but as a destination for a more substantial meal. However, he knew that innovation had to be balanced with maintaining the core values that had made the brand successful in the first place. One of those core values was a commitment to ethical sourcing and sustainability. As the company grew, so did its impact on the world, and he was determined to ensure that this impact was a positive one. He spearheaded initiatives to ensure that the coffee beans used in the stores were sourced in a way that was both sustainable and fair to the farmers who grew them. This included paying premium prices to farmers for high-quality beans, investing in community development projects in coffee-growing regions, and working to reduce the company's environmental footprint. These efforts not only helped to build a more sustainable supply chain, but also resonated with customers who were increasingly concerned about the ethical implications of their purchases. The company's commitment to social responsibility didn't stop at coffee sourcing. He also launched programs to support employees, whom he saw as the heart and soul of the company. He introduced benefits like healthcare coverage for part-time employees, stock options, and opportunities for career advancement. By investing in his employees, he ensured that they were motivated, engaged, and proud to be part of the company, a factor that translated into better customer service and a stronger overall brand. As the company continued to grow and innovate, he faced new challenges, but he was always ready to adapt. One of the biggest challenges came in the form of increasing competition. As other businesses saw the success of the coffeehouse model, they began to replicate it, often with cheaper products or more aggressive marketing strategies. Rather than seeing this as a threat, he viewed it as an opportunity to double down on what made his company unique. He believed that while others could copy the concept, they couldn't replicate the heart of the brand, the sense of community, the commitment to quality, and the focus on creating a memorable customer experience. He encouraged his team to keep pushing the boundaries, to stay true to the brand's values, and to continue finding new ways to delight customers. One of the key lessons he imparted to his team was the importance of resilience. In an ever-changing market, it wasn't enough to simply react to challenges. They had to anticipate them, adapt quickly, and turn obstacles into opportunities. He often reminded his team that setbacks were a natural part of growth, and that every challenge was a chance to learn and improve. This mindset was put to the test during the 2008 global financial crisis. As the economy took a nosedive, even established companies like his felt the impact. Sales began to decline as consumers cut back on discretionary spending, and the company faced difficult decisions about how to navigate the downturn. In response, he made the tough choice to close underperforming stores and streamline operations to reduce costs. It was a painful process, but he knew that it was necessary to protect the company's long-term viability. At the same time, he focused on reinforcing the brand's core strengths: quality, community, and customer experience. He also saw the crisis as an opportunity to reassess the company's values and refocus on what truly mattered. He used this time to invest in the things that would strengthen the company in the long run, such as enhancing employee training, improving the customer experience, and deepening the company's commitment to social responsibility. By staying true to these principles, the company not only weathered the storm, but emerged stronger on the other side. As the economy began to recover, so did the company. Sales rebounded, and the brand continued to expand, both domestically and internationally. But he never forgot the lessons of the financial crisis. Lessons about the importance of adaptability, resilience, and staying true to one's values, even in the face of adversity. Looking back, he realized that the journey of building the company had been filled with highs and lows, successes and setbacks. But through it all, the vision had remained clear: to create a place where people could come together, enjoy great coffee, and be part of a community. That vision had guided him from the very beginning, and it continued to guide him as the company moved forward. As the company entered a new decade, he remained as passionate as ever about the future. He knew that the world was changing, and with it, the needs and desires of customers. But he was confident that as long as the company stayed true to its core values, it would continue to thrive. He stood at the helm of a company that had not only revolutionized the coffee industry, but had also changed the way people around the world experienced coffee. The journey had been long, challenging, and filled with unexpected twists and turns, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. As he looked ahead, he knew that the story was far from over. There were still new challenges to face, new markets to explore, and new opportunities to seize. But he was ready for whatever came next, confident that the company he had built was strong enough to weather any storm and continue to grow for years to come. With a renewed sense of purpose, he and his team prepared to embark on the next chapter of their journey, ready to innovate, adapt, and continue bringing people together over a simple cup of coffee. The future was bright, and the best was yet to come.